You know nothing, Jimmy Snow. Well, hello everyone, back for another somewhat rebuttal show. I am dealing once again with fellow Coloradan, Jimmy Snow. Hold on. Let me channel my inner Jacqueline Glenn. Okay, the reasons for the show. I've noticed a trend, and in a way, you know, I can't blame him. There are certain people and subjects that you can cover that's just going to get you a lot of cheap views. They're super easy to criticize and laugh at. But the sad thing is they're super easy to criticize, and Jimmy does not a good job of criticizing them. It's utterly, almost utterly, lacking just in substance. Now, I want to emphasize here that my disagreements with Jimmy do not indicate agreement with the people he is criticizing whatsoever. You know, when I first started watching his channel, I really liked it. It was something new, it was something fresh, and it's just turned into another amazing atheist, obnoxious, just no. In fact, he's become, I got it. I'm a little tongue-tied, but I got it. He's become the mirror image of what he criticizes. And that's not good. That's no bueno. No bueno. It is shallow and pompous, not classically Abbey level shallow and pompous, but it's not classically Abbey level of shallow and pompous. So I'm not Jimmy Snow. Let's do this.
She will talk about being proud to be an American without any knowledge of what an American is. And we'll demonstrate that. You will see. We'll talk about the opposition as communist and very clearly define what she believes a communist is. Spoiler alert, it's not a communist.
Alrighty then. So I guess again, we're dealing with Caitlin Bennett. Easiest target in the world. Well, maybe not the easiest, but one of the easiest. I mean, I'm trying to think of who might be easier. Who's that screaming pastor who does the pisses against the wall thing? Steven Anderson. That might be easier.
We got a bunch of preachers, we got a bunch of leaders who don't stand up and piss against the wall like a man. And I'm going to tell you something. That's what's wrong with America.
So, yeah, one of the easiest. And he claims that Caitlin doesn't know what a communist is. What's interesting is that Jimmy doesn't know what a fascist is. This is what I mean by becoming the mirror image. He throws around the word fascist the way Caitlin throws around the word communist. When both of them probably should be saying, and I'll get into this more later, this is going to be somewhat of a long video because I just really had it. So I just wanted to do it and get it over with. I've spent several hours just setting this up in my eCam. Anyone who has this program knows it takes a while to set all this up. Hope you appreciate it. But yeah, what they both really should be saying is socialistic or communistic or fascistic, because you can find elements of those sorts of things in a lot of different worldviews. But to simply laugh, oh, look at the stupid Kent State gun girl doesn't know what communism is. Well, Jimmy, you know, wait, I hear something. That was Mr. Pot. He was just letting you know the kettle is black. On to the next one.
Caitlin Bennett. Oh, Caitlin. So she has these two Twitter pages. One is her, and then I believe the other one is her and her husband, who nobody cares about. Like, yeah, he shows up on the channel, and yeah, he acts like he's super oppressed and that he's standing up for something. But go ahead. Name him.
Justin Maldow. Next.
So we're here to talk about Caitlin Bennett and the posts that go out, and presumably all the posts on Liberty Hangout are either written by her or approved at the very least by her.
Okay, now, it takes zero research to find out who Caitlin Bennett's husband is. I happen to have already known that because there's a history here that Jimmy Snow seems just pretty ignorant of. Liberty Hangnail is just like the ass on the wart of the word liberty. So those of us who are libertarians are very well aware of them. And way before he was engaged to Caitlin, Justin Maldau had been the originator and curator, if you could even call it that, of Liberty Hangnail. He had been its driving force. So, you know, Jimmy has this weird obsession with Caitlin, but what makes him think she is the voice behind it? Why couldn't it be Justin? Because she's now out front and center? Well, putting a conventionally attractive young woman out front and center is just good marketing sense. It's been that way since the beginning of time until now. So that's not a big surprise, and that certainly doesn't mean that she has to approve everything. In fact, I seriously doubt that, knowing Justin, but I could be wrong. I think the influence went from Justin to Caitlin, not Caitlin to Justin, as far as like who corrupted who, or I don't know, maybe they came out of the womb corrupt. I don't know. But I actually think the power dynamic is the opposite of what Jimmy's inferring, but he just has this weird obsession with Caitlin. Like everything, you know, all roads lead to Caitlin. He's like making her out to be Snowball in Animal Farm.
A lot of the animals didn't like this idea because it was against the 7 commandments. Squealer went around and convinced everybody that it wasn't part of the 7 commandments, but that it was just a lie that Snowball had created. All of the animals ran out to see the windmill. Even Napoleon was freaking out. After Napoleon calmed himself down, he told everyone that it was Snowball's fault. That Snowball knocked down the windmill to get revenge for his banishment.
Starting with this tweet, Hunter Biden's laptop was attained legally, and Twitter banned the story. President Trump's phone call with @GA Sec of State was recorded illegally, and Twitter promotes the story. When will Republicans get off their lazy asses and repeal Section 230? First of all, it has not been established that that call was legal, and in fact, Georgia and D.C. are both single-party consent states. So unless there is an establishment of something to do with national security or something, there is no presumption that that call couldn't have been recorded. Now, even if there was a legality issue, it wasn't the legality, because Twitter will put illegal things on air all the time. Simply playing something that's illegal, a video of a person speeding is not going to get you deleted. It had to do with the conspiracy. You remember the Hunter Biden's laptop conspiracy, that he flew across the country to give his laptop to a semi-blind computer repair tech and then never returned for it. And so that computer repair tech did the unethical thing and started going through the files of the client instead of just wiping the hard drive. And apparently Hunter Biden, despite his profile, did not have adequate encryption or passwords to prevent such a thing. Anyway, Hunter Biden's laptop goes across the country, leaves it there. He finds that there are these emails and they're about the Ukraine, and this guy somehow has access to Steve Bannon and Rudy Giuliani, who are the other 2 people that he made sure to give copies of everything to besides the FBI. Yeah. That.
All right. You know, Jimmy, I know you have someone who is even working for you now. Yes, I'm jelly. But considering that, could you at least do the minimal of research? I would even be happy with shoddy research rather than this non-existent research. For instance, you pontificated quite a bit about this phone call and about how Georgia is a one-party state and, you know, it just took this one person to consent to recording. And you know, it wouldn't have taken much for you to at least get those facts right. So, yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah. So why did you decide to take the phone call this time? What was different this time?
I didn't know it was being recorded. I just was at my home with my wife, and I had it on speakerphone, but I didn't record anything at my house. But I was making notes. But also then on Sunday morning, he put out a Twitter. I thought we had a private conversation, just not left unsaid. It was private, but I just thought it was man to man, just having a conversation.
And, you know, that took me literally 5 minutes to find that out. I was curious as to whether you were correct. So I did something shocking. I actually researched. Now, I don't blame you for being skeptical about the convenience of this whole thing. If only you were that skeptical when it's your side. And this isn't my side either. Let's get that straight, you know. No matter who won this election, I would have been able to have very honestly said, I'm glad your shitty candidate lost. No matter who won and who lost, because they are both shitty candidates. So being skeptical that things were just too perfect is reasonable. But it's very disingenuous to deny that there is credible evidence despite all that. The Bidens never denied it was his laptop. Believe me, if it wasn't his laptop, they would have denied it. I mean, that's just the most obvious thing. And you accused the owner of being unethical. Did you do any research to find out that the user agreement said if somebody doesn't pick it up, I think it was within 90 days, it becomes the possession of the store? And once something belongs to you, you can peek at it all you want. Would you have felt differently? Though I know some people had alleged this because people are just stupid. But, you know, the Geek Squad people have been known to poke around and find child porn. I mean, it's in the agreement that they can look around your computer, and are you screaming bloody hell about that? Or just because this is your agenda? That's my problem. You are, anyway. So my question to you, Jimmy, is if the tables were turned somehow and this was Barron Trump's laptop, would you be saying the same thing? I don't. I think you'd be screaming to the high heavens about this incriminating evidence. Inconvenient facts for your side is not the same thing as conspiracies. And that's a lesson I think you need to learn. And you mentioned, oh, it's so crazy. Biden, did he fly across the country just to drop off this laptop in Delaware? Okay. Is there any reasonable reason why he might have dropped off a laptop in Delaware other than him just flying from California to do this one thing? Do you think the fact that his father owns a house in Delaware might be a reason that he's in Delaware frequently? You think? And it's not just one house. It is dun, 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 2 houses in Delaware. Seems pretty patently obvious to me that you make a great deal of special pleading when it's your side. Carry that water, Jimmy.
All right, today, little babies, I'm gonna show you how to carry that water.
Why would Twitter take that down? The perpetuation of these stupid conspiracies. And to tell you the truth, I'm not even sure I think Twitter should have taken it down, but you aren't comparing like things here, and you are making up that you think the policy is because something happened illegally, it wouldn't be talked about or played on Twitter. You are wrong.
Well, I can't say what was in Caitlin's head, and I certainly do not want to get into Caitlin's head. I'm sure that is quite a scary place. But the fact is, Jimmy, you are misrepresenting what the policy is. It isn't a mere illegality. It is the hacked materials policy. And here's the thing. If everything about that laptop issue was in fact the case, it was left there, it then became the property of the shop. That is not hacked materials, but we know for certain that that phone call was not recorded at the time with the consent of either party. And that definitely is then something that would fall within the hacked materials policy. So Caitlin, like her or not like her, has a point here. There is a huge honking double standard. Now, I tend to think that the hacked policies material is being applied wrongly here, because what it does then is protect potential wrongdoers. That might not be a bad idea. Potential wrongdoers, and doesn't give an outlet for a whistleblower. But that's besides the point here. The point here is your differing standards. And the fact is, Caitlyn does have a point here. She's not the one making shit up. You are.
You're just making shit up.
Conservatives should be investing all their time and energy into secession. It is the only sustainable option we have left to secure our values when Congress is already saying a woman, the U.S. as we know it, is lost. Here's the funny thing. The things they get so upset about, most people on the left, like myself, hear about it first from them. When did this a woman thing happen? And who cares if it did? It is given as much power as you're deciding to give it, because it seriously never hit my radar until you, the conservatives, and you aren't conservatives because you are anti-Constitution. It's impossible for you to be. Not to say that all people who are pro-Constitution are conservatives. That's certainly not the case. Liberals are very pro-Constitution. You just have to still be at least some level of pro-Constitution. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. They are the ones bringing power to this story, and they're shooting themselves in the foot. It's just funny to me.
Listen, if you're going to be a political commentator, you should be aware of these things that are going on. It is surprising to me that you hadn't heard about this, because it is cringy AF. And even then, it's not a surprise that you would hear about it from the conservatives, because it's the conservatives are the ones who would care. I mean, your argument is completely without foundation. You're basically like, well, because nobody that I know is upset about it, I didn't hear about it, therefore it's not worth getting upset about. That makes about as much sense of a logical argument as wherever you go, there you are. So, let's watch this bit of cringe, shall we?
A man and a woman.
There is no such thing as a Republican or a Democrat anymore. You are either pro-Trump or anti-Trump, and if you're anti-Trump, then you're anti-America, anti-Christian, and anti-God. Hang on, let me go check. Weird, it says I'm still registered as a Democrat, so apparently these words have no actual meaning. Oh, and by the way, this is othering. This is what it is. They are trying to promote a political cult, not a political party.
Othering? Jimmy, that's half of what you do. Again, this is the whole projection. You really sometimes are the mirror image of what you're criticizing. And hyperliteralism much? Did you really think that she meant that, poof, magically, you would look up your voter registration and Democrat literally wouldn't exist anymore? Now, I do think whatever point she's making is stupid, but how you're interpreting it is absolutely ridiculous. You're trying to interpret it in the most silly way possible to make her look silly, and it just makes you look silly. Silly?
It is absolutely about subjugation. It is absolutely about fascism, which, again, they will very clearly demonstrate throughout this without ever, in this case, with the Constitution, they're going to directly say it. They won't directly say they are fascist.
Okay, here we go. Monarchy, which is what Caitlyn very oddly has been promoting lately, but so does, who's that guy there in Denver, the pastor guy? Bob Enyart. He also promotes monarchy. So monarchy is not fascism. Things you don't like aren't fascism just because you don't like them. Shall we have a little lesson? Perhaps we should.
There are a lot of people who are confidently talking about fascism, but I don't think they actually know what it means. Fascism is essentially conform or else. Well, it got a lot of likes, so that's cool, but then the well actually crowd hopped on, and one of the responses from Eli A. was, that's just authoritarianism. Not all authoritarians are fascists, but all fascists are authoritarians. And Eli kind of has a point. Maybe I simplified too much. Violence usually is associated with fascism, but not always. So let me revise. Fascism is the idea that the group is more important than the individual. Authoritarianism and totalitarianism are both useful tools of fascism, but they are not necessary for it to happen, I suppose. But the other reason for me making this video is my frustration with people just using whatever definition of fascism best promotes their cause or fits their political agenda. The sad thing is that even though people use the word fascism to describe people they disagree with or they hate, they often are subconsciously cool with some aspects of it. Could this be you?
Hello, operator. Could you get me Alanis Morissette? I have a new incident to report.
The Democratic Party definitely existed prior to Trump.
Thanks, Captain Obvious.
So to say that after Trump there is no Democratic Party is to extend to him a power it is impossible for him to have. Also, it's just a monumentally stupid thing to say.
He's a pedantic, pontificating, pretentious bastard.
Governor Ron DeSantis to begin drafting articles of secession to declare Florida a free and independent nation. We need a new country that will be safe from Democratic tyranny. Few things about that. One, he doesn't have the power to do it. Two, Florida isn't majority Republican, even though they did vote red this time. They've voted blue in the past. It is very much a swing state and still a swing state at play. And there is also the discussion of all the people there, something like 40 to 50% of people who didn't vote at all in this election who wouldn't be represented by this. You think all of these people, and you're going to see it's hilarious except that it's tragic, they think people in these government service positions, which is what presidency and governorships are supposed to be, have powers they don't have. Also, if Florida seceded, do you know what America could do? Cool, Florida. Good luck with that. You cannot use any of our trade routes. You cannot use any of our highways. You will not have access to our federal aid. We could destroy them in a week without ever doing anything violent, and they would beg to come back. Because it turns out Florida is not a self-sustaining commune. It's gross.
Did you just call the entire state of Florida gross, Jimmy?
Go fuck yourself.
Didn't you just say something about othering? And it's also interesting you're talking about people not being represented. That's a whole other story because you're such a big fan of majority rule, in which it means there's always going to be some people who aren't represented. And also, I would like to point out, we've got this dude.
Oh, dude. That. What if that's what he does? He's just dressed up as Spider-Man and pressure washes people's roofs.
What do you got? Listen, when Spider-Man is out, you know, steam cleaning the tops of roofs, I think we'll be okay. It's a joke. It's a joke. But the more serious point here is the whole point in secession is kind of the whole point that you don't have the authority to do it. It's an act of rebellion and defiance. At least how things are set up today. Of course, the way things are set up today is basically the Hotel California. You can't leave. Which, you know, shotgun marriages aren't a good idea when it comes to countries or actual marriages.
Caitlin Bennett, friendly reminder that Kamala Harris bailed out actual terrorists and burned down businesses, and Joe Biden called Antifa just an idea. They want to do to this entire country what they did to all the cities they destroyed. You'll also notice that there's always this sort of vague summary of things that she thinks everybody has just sort of agreed on. You're never really going to get sourcing for any of this too, because if you add the additional context of just an idea, basically talking about that they aren't organized as in they don't have formal leadership. They aren't any more organized than, as I've made the jokes before, a vegans in Utah group on Facebook would be. And I guarantee you that that group exists, or it'll be like vegans of Salt Lake City. These aren't organized groups. They are an ideology. They have ideas, and people are doing it sometimes crappy things in the name of them. It was about the Antifa is a terrorist organization, which was absurd because it wasn't an organization, and yet Trump was going to designate it as such anyway.
Don't lie, Pinocchio. I know it is beneath Jimmy to pay attention to small channels like mine, but up here somewhere I will put in an in-show card where I thoroughly rebutted his not an organization assertion. But for here, why don't we hear from, you know, somebody who has actually gone undercover and done investigative journalism and wrote a book on this subject to see what they have to say.
And you mentioned the curriculum part. That's from Rose City Antifa, which is the largest and oldest Antifa organization in the US. They're in Portland, go figure. And you'll see that in every single way, they are a formal organization. And the book details it, but like there's a recruitment process, there's a vetting process, there's training, there's curriculum, there's reading, there's discussions. All these are done secretively. And one of the places they did it was a feminist bookstore. So, like, they do a lot of activities in the open that we can see that are criminal, and they do a lot of other things behind closed doors, and this book shines a light on both.
It's interesting looking at the structure of Antifa. Does it actually have a leader? Is it a single entity?
It is not a single entity. So when Christopher Wray, who's the head of the FBI, when he gave testimony and said Antifa is not an organization, he's technically correct, but he should have followed that up by saying, but there are many Antifa groups and organizations who do share the same ideology, whether they have Antifa in the name or not, and they are connected to linking networks. So that's why you can have rioters from Portland or Seattle know how to link with the anarchist communists who are in Wisconsin, which is thousands and thousands of miles away, or link with the extremist Antifa in DC, very far away as well. So he should have followed up on that. So
as far as becoming Emperor Trump goes, you do know he can't, right? You seem to think there is this built into the powers he had. He is just as capable of declaring himself king now as he was 4 years ago, the last 4 years when he was president, as he was when he was 16 years old and getting in fights and proving what a man he was at military school. All of those times, same amount of power to declare himself king.
Did your hair move? Did your rant bun move when the point flew over your head? Of course, someone declaring themselves God, King, Emperor, or your whatever it is that she wanted. The whole point is that it's a coup, that it's a takeover, not that you had the legitimate within the context of the laws at that time to do so. Do you think that when we said we need to declare a revolution, that it was in the laws of England that we could do that? That's kind of the whole point. If I didn't want to not fuck up my makeup, and if it wasn't really laid out, I feel like I just need to go run outside and stick my face in the snow to just like get the derpity derp out. You know, I can't take it.
You can't tweet, you only get $600. Well, thank you for aligning with us on this, that you understand that the redistribution of wealth is what's going to get us out of this.
The redistribution of wealth is what's going to get us out of this. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Is there any problem in the world, Jimmy, that you don't think stealing from other people would help? How's it going to get us out of this? Does the virus all of a sudden, you know, well, wealth is redistributed. I guess I'm going to go away now.
You can't open your business. This is what I love. Here's a list of things they're saying you can't do, and you can do all of them. You can't open your business. literally, I was here on January 7th. I was here at my business. You can't go to a church. Okay, I didn't go to church on the 7th. But largely across the country, at limited capacity, churches are open. Also, you can attend virtually. Also, the Bible is not filled with churches. There are temples, but it was a lot of outdoor gatherings. And you know what you all have had plenty of since then? Y'all did church on boats. Or it might have been another Dear Leader thing. I don't remember. It's all looks the same. Can't go to a restaurant. I literally could right now if I wanted to. You can't see your family. We are experiencing, it is finally waning, a spike from the holidays and people going to see their families. So it's not a can't, it's a shouldn't. They shouldn't have done that, but it's not a can't. You can't celebrate Christmas. See my last response. You can't support the president. What consequences have you suffered? You are here promoting fascism and siding with domestic terrorists, and you still have a Twitter account, which baffles me.
Jimmy, you have got to be kidding me. Here is a list of the restrictions in multiple states. You're acting like what you might be experiencing here in Colorado, A, is universal. Plus, you really think by saying that you're able to go to your office that is just you, that isn't open to the public, is the same as the general experience of not being able to open a business? How fucking entitled can you be? Oh, and you can go to a restaurant. Really? You can't go after 10. There's plenty of states where you can't. There's areas where you can't. Or, you know, it's limited so much. Oh my goodness, Jimmy. And also telling people how they're supposed to practice their religion is just particularly rich. And you're not a New Testament scholar. While there were outdoor gatherings, which, you know, you still criticize because forget about church. I know of other sorts of gatherings that you have called super spreaders whenever a bunch of people get together. So you wouldn't be approving of that either. But no, most of the New Testament practice, or at least during the New Testament era, was house churches. And they weren't big, spacious houses either. Just saying. But, you know, I'm so glad you can keep your business open. How about a little bit reality check? I want you to hear from this guy.
When this order came into effect, had we decided to follow it, we would have been insolvent before the order ended. There would have been no business. The last 10 years of my life working and saving every penny to purchase a business would have simply evaporated in smoke. But where that gets even more interesting is that my home is leveraged against that business. So to lose the business means I lose my personal home.
But yeah, just sit there with your privilege.
That how things started. Trump's a fascist dictator. No, it isn't. That isn't how it started. It is Trump aspires to be a fascist dictator. It is that Trump will try to operate as a fascist. At no point during Donald Trump's presidency was he actually a dictator. He only tried and wished and celebrated and became friends with other dictators in the world and clearly admired most dictators. Remember that clip of him? You know, it's very admirable the way when Kim Jong walks in, everybody stands up straight. I wish my people would do that. Stand at attention and listen to my super duper insightful words.
No fan of Trump, and he certainly said some stupid shit, but I would have loved to have been around to see what your reaction would have been to things like this.
We've got controversy. Everybody, ring. I can't believe it. Obama's done it again. He's shown respect to a foreign leader. Oh, look at this. Oh, he bowed down to the Japanese Emperor Akihito. How dare he actually follow the customs of that country and show respect in a way that almost everyone does. The guy is doing diplomacy. How does it hurt anybody if he's respectful? And he says, hey, how you doing? Yeah, stick there long. Bowing down to the waist.
Bowing to an emperor. Oh my God. You know, the conservatives really did have a field day with that. And I thought it was stupid then. But, you know, I don't have a horse in either of these races, and perhaps that somewhat allows me to be usually equally negative. But in this, there's nothing to see here. But as far as being obsequious to a dictator and a tyrant, what about this?
The president's brief visit to Saudi Arabia is the first stop on a trip that will also take him to Germany and France. But the most highly anticipated stop comes tomorrow in Egypt, where the president will deliver a long-awaited speech on the relationship between the U.S. and Muslim world. Ahead of that address, Obama said it was important to seek guidance from the Saudi king.
It was very important to come to the place where Islam began and to seek His Majesty's counsel and to discuss with him many of the issues that we confront here in the Middle East.
Carry that water, Jimmy. Carry that water.
I truly believe the Democrats will either kill or imprison Trump and everyone that works in his administration. If you don't believe that, then you've been living under a rock. Listen, this is once again where they are grouping things together, where one is potentially reasonable and the other is stupid. We're not going to kill Trump, but hell yeah, we're going to imprison him. We're going to try. I mean, justice seems to elude this man, and he seems to elude justice, and maybe he will succeed. But hell yeah, he should be in prison for a lot.
I really don't feel like digging up the clips, but it seems to me, I think you were outraged when Trump had said about Hillary that she'd be in jail. And you want to know what? I think a whole lot of them need to be in jail. Trump does, Hillary does, Obama does. Most of the presidents Bush in recent history should all be in jail. But I'm just asking you to be consistent and not be so obviously blinkered.
We went from there needs to be a peaceful transition of power to ban every Trump supporter from social media, ban every free speech site. And this is them. No, nobody said every Trump supporter should be banned from anything. This is them making up shit. Ban every free speech site from the App Store, ban every platform from using servers, and ban every conservative network from TV real quick, didn't we? Nope, we sure didn't. You morons. I wish I could go, all of these I could do an entire episode on.
I would love to see you do that. But nobody? What about this?
If we jump over here, here's a tweet from everyone's favorite, actress, barmaid turned politician, AOC. Is anyone archiving these Trump sycophants for when they try to downplay or deny their complacency in the future? I foresee decent probability of many deleted tweets, writings, photos in the future. And here's Michael Simon going, yes, we are, the Trump Accountability Project.
And wanting to get rid of conservative television or media? What about this? Jimmy, are you really that blind that your side can do no wrong and nobody ever has a reasonable point? Can you ever concede a point? There is a lot of bullshit going on, and I don't carry torches for the conservatives, but I do carry a torch for freedom of speech and a hatred towards making enemies lists, people in government making enemies lists. Holy crap.
If you're not with Trump, then you're I was going to say communist. Then you're a communist. Simple as that. You don't know what communism is. This is very obvious. There are more options than whatever ideology you would call Trumpism and communism. That you think everything is so simplistic and reduced to such simple binaries.
And you seem to be describing yourself when it comes to calling everything you don't like fascism. Take your own advice, physician, heal yourself.
Democrats voted for Biden to help people out of work from the shutdowns. And the first thing he does is sign an international climate agreement. Instead, you got played. He doesn't care about you. You don't understand how government works. One of the first executive orders he signed.
And it's funny. You are claiming, and you're right, that she probably doesn't understand how government works, or maybe she just doesn't, whatever. You don't. You're defending an executive order. Jimmy, don't accuse somebody of something and then turn around and defend something that's not supposed to be happening to begin with. Really? Really?
Why wasn't there a memorial for all the people that died from cancer, car accidents, or the flu? You're still making this point on January 20th? Because we couldn't do anything about those people.
Is that true? Jimmy, you don't think we could have done anything about flu victims? You don't think lockdowns and masks and social distancing works for the flu? Why haven't we done this every flu season? Flu season, quite a few people die. Why aren't we doing the same thing for them, Jimmy? You've ignored the point. Now, the car accident thing, whatever, but you mentioned the flu as she mentioned the flu, and that is a really good question.
The new variants may not be able to stop be stopped by the vaccine. Here is the thing, everyone. The reason why it has been able to evolve and change and adapt so much is because it has had so much opportunity. If people like this person were to have taken this seriously from the get-go and say we had done things like other countries have done, which in some countries eradicated it from within their borders or even gotten close to that, we would have way limited the ability, and we may not be seeing any of these variants, or at least far fewer. But because it is so contagious and it so rapidly evolves, this is what happened. So the way to get out of this in the future as more variants come out is, one, everybody get vaccinated for as many as you can now, as many as we can cover, which right now is just SARS-CoV-2. But you need to get as much as you can vaccinated against. As new vaccines that cover more come out, you need that too. And you need to actually be following the guidelines even after you are vaccinated, until we have a large enough number of vaccinations that even if you are still capable of infecting others, while you won't get sick, you won't be putting others at risk. I'm tired of having to explain this to people. This is very simple. It is not hard to grasp. God, and it's hilarious. Build up your immune system. You know what? One way to do that? Buy vaccines. You person.
You mean follow the guidelines the way you did, Jimmy, when you decided this was in the height of it, that you just couldn't take eating the snacks at your house and you just had to get out like that? Yeah, the thing is, it has had a long time. And you want to know naturally the way you keep viruses from sticking around longer is you have to play by Mother Nature's rules, and Mother Nature can be a bitch. You get herd immunity the natural way, not by, holding people away. You do it by protecting the most vulnerable, and everyone else then gets it the way we have gotten it throughout the centuries. That is how you keep viruses from sticking around too long. A lot of the things that we did that you advocated for, that you're saying we didn't do right, are things that keep it around for a while. In the countries that have eradicated it, or allegedly eradicated it, the minute they start to allow free travel and actual lives from people, this is not something that can be contained in that way. You either have to impinge upon liberties, or you just have to deal with the reality. Some of them also are functionally island nations. I mean, New Zealand is one of the ones that is on that list. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, so I also would encourage vaccines. Now, these particular vaccines, though, you don't bring up the potential issues where they didn't address asymptomatic carriers. And there are still issues with it. I'm not one of those people who are like, oh no, we're all going to become infertile and don't get it. No, I'm not saying that at all. But these are a new kind of vaccine. It doesn't build up your immune system in the same way traditional ones did. And it really is unclear how long the immunity would last. Yes, we have let it stick around a while. And I'm not the only person saying that for something that for 99.9% of the people, that is not a precise number, but you're getting my point, is completely survivable, is not a means to seize dictatorial control over the economy and the population. It simply isn't. And governments, once given control, don't easily relinquish them, and I don't think you're going to like what the future holds after clamoring so hard for government control here. I've dealt with this more in depth on other shows, so I'm not really going to go into it too in depth. So I'm not going to go into it more in depth here. The virus is real, and I'm not, as I said, vaccines work. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I generally collect vaccines. When I hear there's a new vaccine, the first thing I say is take my money. You know, I don't want to get any sickness any more than anyone else does. But the fact is, you don't get to totally tank the economy and restrict the personal liberties of people for something that is eminently survivable. This isn't the bubonic plague. And the only reason I'm including these tweets, which weren't from Caitlin Bennett, is from this whack fundamentalist lady called the Transformed Wife, who doesn't believe women should vote. I mean, real, like, hardcore fundamentalism, the woman is a servant to the man type thing. Again, low-hanging fruit, extremely low-hanging fruit. Okay, everyone. I had a little bit of technical difficulty. I don't really know. My computer had some hiccups. You might have noticed some of that. I had to do multiple takes on this and splice it together. So thank you so much for your time and attention. So I'm going to give the typical. Please like, subscribe, and share. And if you would like to support my endeavors, I would truly, truly appreciate it. You can become a patron at the links below for as little as $1 a month. You would absolutely make my day if you were to do that. And in the low bar, there is also other ways to support me. And again, anything you could do, if anything at all, I would appreciate. And on Patreon, we are doing some bonus episodes where we're going through right now Judge Jim Gray's book, All Rise. And we'll be doing more books and other bonus episodes. So thank you so much, everyone, and have an awesome day or night, whatever it is where you are.
You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business, not because they wanna